Do you believe in luck? Many people think that relying on fate's mercy is pointless. However, history knows many examples where fortune turned people's lives around by 180 degrees. Here are 20 amazing examples of luck, where chance gave humanity something truly wonderful. Number 10. The Saddle Ridge Horde. Many of us are accustomed to thinking that in the modern world, it's unreal to literally find treasures right under our feet. But exactly that happened with an American couple. It was February 2023. A husband and wife living in North Carolina, America, were walking their dog on their property. At one moment, they noticed something sticking out of the ground. The spouses thought it was just another tin can, like the many they had found in their yard before. However, upon closer inspection, they were stunned. The find turned out to be nothing other than a treasure. Before the Americans lay a vessel filled to the brim with gold coins. The husband and wife were extremely surprised and delighted by what happened. But even greater joy was brought by the further examination of the find. It turned out that the 1,400 gold coins were very old, dating back to the mid-19th century. According to experts, the artifacts were used during the gold rush and represent serious historical value. Their total value amounted to a whole $10 million. The find, later named the Saddle Ridge Hoard, became the most expensive in all of American history. Just imagine, people expected to live another ordinary day, but instead they received unimaginable wealth. The case with the American couple proves that even in the most ordinary circumstances, if you are very lucky, you can experience fortune's smile. In a minute, we'll continue our story about incredible finds that turned the world upside down. But first, like this video if you enjoy it, and subscribe to the channel. Click the bell. That way, you can stay informed about all our fresh videos. Number 9. The Venus de Milo. The Venus de Milo is arguably the most famous sculpture in world history, and it's also a precious historical artifact and a benchmark piece of art. But, surprisingly, the world discovered Venus entirely by chance. People literally stumbled upon the majestic statue. It was buried in the ground. In the year 1821, an ordinary farmer living on the Greek island of Milos was plowing his field. At one moment, he pressed hard on the plow and suddenly stumbled upon something in the ground. Upon further examination, it became clear, right under the peasant's plow was a buried statue. It turned out to be a majestic depiction of a beautiful woman. The statue's height was 2.02 meters, and it was made of noble marble. Even without being experts in art, the farmers who found the statue understood this was the greatest creation of ancient genius. When the sensational find was examined by experts, it was revealed that it was created between 130 and 100 BC. It is believed that the heroine is either the ancient Greek goddess Aphrodite or the Roman Venus. However, today, the exact name of the beauty immortalized in stone does not concern the public much. More questions arise about the fact that the statue lacks arms. Some people believe that they were simply destroyed over time. Others suggest that perhaps the sculpture never had limbs in the first place. The master might not have finished the work, or it was never intended to have arms. If there are art enthusiasts among you who can shed light on this mystery, please express your views in the comments. Number 8. The Derinkuyu Underground City. Do you expect to make an outstanding archaeological discovery when starting renovations in your home? I think not. However, a homeowner in Turkey truly lucked out during a major renovation, discovering an ancient city right behind his wall. This unexpected yet exciting event occurred in the life of an ordinary Turkish man in the year 1963. At that time, while renovating an old house, he demolished one of the dilapidated walls. Surprisingly, instead of pipes or old coverings, catacombs were discovered behind it. As specialists learned a bit later, they turned out to be a real huge underground city. It extended more than 85 meters deep, and consisted of a network of tunnels, chambers, and ventilation shafts. Amazingly, some rooms even retained their own wine cellars. Scientists believe the city could easily accommodate up to 20,000 residents. The creation of Derinkuyu likely dates back to the 8th–7th century BC. Over the city's existence, different groups of people used it. The early Christians, hiding underground from Roman persecutors, are the most well-known. They created a complete... Over time, the city was deserted, and the Christians living in Turkey moved to Greece. The grand halls of Derinkuyu were abandoned and forgotten. The fact that this magnificent historical monument is known to the world today is a great stroke of luck. Number 7. A 900-year-old Crusader's Sword. Imagine that you are at a luxurious seaside with diving gear. Most likely, you'll decide to enjoy a pleasant dive to admire the fish and corals. But how would you react if you stumble upon a real relic nearly 1,000 years old at the bottom? In the year 2016, an amateur diver explored the sea near the coast of Hakarmal in Israel. At the bottom, the man spotted an unusual object. In the shell-covered cross-shaped object, the contours of a sword were easily discernible. Lifting the hefty find to the surface, the diver took it straight to the experts. The conclusions of the experts were shocking. What a regular diver found by pure chance turned out to be an artifact many scientists had dreamed of for decades. The item from the seabed was none other than a sword, a combat weapon of European knights. Based on its configuration and material characteristics, experts determined that the blade most likely belonged to a crusader. The warrior, who participated in religious conflicts, lived and fought at least 900 years ago. The sword itself was well preserved. Beneath the layer of shells, there was strong steel. The origin of the sword from the seabed was established, but no one has yet been able to decipher the story of its loss. The fact is that nothing was found near the artifact's discovery site that could indicate the identity of its owner. The luxurious blade, having seen many battles and glorious victories, was not passed down as an heirloom, did not end up in a museum, but instead rested deep under the water. That it eventually fell into the hands of historians is a great fortune. Number 6. The Terracotta Army. In the year 1974, a couple of farmers living near the Chinese city of Xi'an decided to dig a well. Starting the work, the peasants unexpectedly discovered an extensive chamber underground, and in it, a multitude of sculptures. As it turned out later, this was part of the necropolis of an emperor of ancient China. Today, it is considered one of the most important archaeological finds in the world. And, had it not been for the luck of the farmers, humanity might never have seen this majestic complex. Inside the underground chamber, scientists discovered a mass of warrior statues. It turned out that each of them had unique facial features and figure, their own expressions. The signs of military distinction were also different. Scientists who arrived in Xi'an to study the find determined that the hall with the warrior sculptures was just part of a huge mausoleum. The underground complex was built in honor of Qin Shi Huang, the emperor who once ruled a united China. The scale of the find was truly astonishing. According to specialists, the necropolis covers an area of no less than 97 square kilometers. On its territory, statues of infantry warriors, riders, archers, as well as chariots and wagons in full combat gear were grouped. In addition, there were sculptures of horses, other animals, figures of people with non-military occupations, officials, musicians, acrobats. In total, there are no less than 8,100 human statues. Absolutely every clay sculpture has individual features and its own expression. Historians are sure that the terracotta warriors were meant to guard and protect the emperor on his journey to the afterlife. Despite its exceptional historical value, the mausoleum of the Chinese emperor and the nearby terracotta army are still not fully explored. There are two reasons. the impossibility of safely excavating soil in some parts of the necropolis, and the excessive mercury content near the emperor's tomb. Number 5. The Lasco Cave. On September 12, 1940, the world, by fate's will, gained another wonder, the amazing and stunning Lasco Cave. And a young resident of France, who went for a walk with his dog in a remote mountain area, helped bring this discovery to light. So, Marcel Ravidat, the man who introduced the world to this ancient pearl, took his dog for a walk far into the mountains from the village of Montignac, in the Dordogne department of southwestern France. At one moment, the 18-year-old young man noticed his pet furiously chasing something and running wildly. Marcel followed his dog, not fearing to venture into the thickest thicket. Catching up with the animal, the boy, to his surprise, realized he had accidentally come across the entrance to a cave. At that time, he did not know that this unassuming hole led to a real dwelling of ancient people, which had remained untouched for many thousands of years. The simple country boy had no idea that he had made one of the main archaeological discoveries of the 20th century. Brave Ravidat boldly entered the cave and was immediately struck, speechless. From the vaulted ceilings and walls of the underground chamber, hundreds of painted creatures looked at him. Most of them were bulls and horses, but there were also deer, bears, wolves, and some other creatures. Some images were grouped together, forming cohesive hunting scenes. Others were scattered and possibly drawn at different times. All the drawings shared a natural color palette. Obviously, they were created using natural dyes. Scientists who arrived at the Lasco Cave after receiving a message from Marcel Ravidat counted about 600 separate images. In addition to animal drawings, there were abstract figures and rows of symbols. According to experts, the age of the find is at least 7,000 years. That means the paintings date back to the late Paleolithic period. Most likely, the cave served as a sanctuary and was used for only a few centuries. Then people left this place, and the changing landscape outside made the entrance to the chambers invisible. Tourists from all over the world flocked to France to see the legendary site. For several years, the cave was open to all visitors. However, due to the abundance of visitors, the balance in the cave's ecosystem was disrupted, and microorganisms brought from outside began to destroy the rock. Lasco had to be closed, and the frescoes restored. For tourists, an exact replica of the ancient cave was created, located next to the real one. Number 4. The Dead Sea Scrolls. Who would have thought that legendary ancient scrolls, literally priceless, would be discovered with the help of a goat? Yet, that is exactly what happened. We are talking about the Old Testament Qumran manuscripts, or as they are also known, the Dead Sea Scrolls. In 1947, a Bedouin shepherd named Muhammad Ed-Deb ventured into the rocky Qumran desert, adjacent to the coast of the Dead Sea. The scorching heat did not stop the young man, as he had lost his goat and was searching for it. The shepherd wandered for a long time among the limestone rocks, but could not find the animal. Whether out of disappointment or in hopes of driving a goat out of the crevice between the boulders, he threw a stone into a hole in the rock. To his surprise, he heard the sound of broken pottery. Curiosity prevailed, and the Bedouin descended into the crevice. There he saw a large collection of ancient jars containing numerous papyrus scrolls. Scientists who later examined the find were delighted and astounded. It turned out that the shepherd had found not just old manuscripts, but genuine ancient manuscripts, at least 2,000 years old. More than 900 scrolls contained information of truly priceless value for the whole world. They included descriptions of customs prevailing in ancient times, some mystical practices, texts of songs and psalms, kalendas. Most importantly, the papyri contained the oldest known copies of the Hebrew Bible and missing fragments of scripture. The discovery turned out to be truly invaluable. The Dead Sea Scrolls provided scholars with a wealth of information about the history of Judaism and the origins of Christian culture. To this day, the study and deciphering of these mysterious texts continues. Number 3, Moville Cave in 1986 in the south, east of Romania in the Mangalia Hills area, the country's authorities decided to build a power plant. However, after starting the study of the proposed site, the project had to be urgently abandoned. Instead of builders, biologists, and speleologists came to the hills. They were attracted by a discovery comparable in significance to the discovery of a new planet. So, what exactly happened? While looking for a location for the future power plant, specialists accidentally stumbled upon a previously unknown underground grotto. Upon its exploration, it turned out to be an entire network of caves, completely isolated from the outside world. The first to descend there was geochemist Christian Lasco. The researcher saw that not a single ray of light penetrated the underground cavity, and its atmosphere was very heavy. Later, scientists established that the air in Moville Cave had an extremely high concentration of hydrogen sulfide and carbon dioxide, and the oxygen was half as much as on the Earth's surface. The specialist was sure that no life could survive in such a harsh environment. But he was mistaken. In the closed caves, the biosystem not only existed but thrived. This was made possible by chemosynthesis, a process carried out by the activity of special bacteria. Microorganisms convert carbon dioxide into organic matter. They obtain energy for this through chemical reactions involving hydrogen sulfide. Most species on our planet depend on substances obtained by plants through photosynthesis using the energy of the sun. However, in Moville Cave, we see a unique example of a completely different principle of life construction. Creating the foundation for biodiversity in a closed underground system, bacteria become food for woodlice and worms. These, in turn, are eaten by other creatures. In total, 48 different species coexist in the Romanian cave, mostly small invertebrates and insects. 33 of them are endemic, meaning they live exclusively in this place and nowhere else. Many creatures have lost their body pigmentation and vision over a long time of evolution in a closed world. The age of the ecosystem is about 5.5 million years. The pitch darkness and poisonous gases have made these creatures look like aliens. Just think, such amazing discoveries awaited scientists in just one underground cave. It's frightening to imagine what would happen if more such sites were discovered. Who would we see there? Number 2, the Hune Horde. November 1992 in the village of Hune, located in the east of the United Kingdom, will be remembered by the locals forever. It was during this time that the small settlement suddenly became known worldwide. One of the largest hordes in history was discovered on its territory, and, as usual, it happened by chance. Local farmer Eric Lawes was very upset because he lost a hammer. He turned to his neighbor and borrowed a metal detector from him. Walking around his property with the device, at one point the man heard the desired signal. But, to his surprise, he found not a tool. In front of the farmer was a real cache. It contained numerous gold, bronze, and silver coins. Later scientists would count their exact number, 14,860 pieces. Table silver, about 200 items. Jewelry. One item in particular, the so-called Empress Pepper Pot, was of especially high artistic value. It was a vessel, which scientists established, in the distant past, was used to store spices. The container was skillfully created from gilded silver and had the shape of a beautiful female figure with a noble face. According to historians, the items from the cache belonged to the period of Roman rule in Britain, probably towards the end of this stage in the country's life. When political uncertainty arose, the owners of the treasures wanted to save them to retrieve in the future. However, they could not do this. Most likely, we will never know why. Number 1. The Maori Man. In 1998, a pilot flying his plane over a desert located in the southern part of Australia. About 60 kilometers from the remote settlement of Mare, the man suddenly saw something very strange on the ground. This accidental discovery would astonish the minds of locals, as well as scientists from Australia and around the world for many years. So, having risen to a significant height of 3,000 meters above a patch of bare ground, the pilot looked down and could not believe his eyes. Below him stretched a drawing of astonishing dimensions for kilometers. It was a geoglyph, an image formed by impacting the Earth's relief. In a vast area devoid of vegetation, a man with a stick in his hands was drawn. Judging by the details of the image, it was an Australian Aboriginal. He is depicted in a natural pose, as if about to throw a boomerang. There were many rumors about the origin of the Mari man. Some believed that the unusual image was created by unknown creative artists. Others inclined to think that the geoglyph was made by American soldiers. There were even assumptions about the extraterrestrial origin of the drawing. However, in reality, there is no plausible version to this day. It's only clear that a figure at least 4 kilometers tall is completely impossible to notice from the ground. If the pilot had not risen to a sufficient height over the remote area on a clear day, most likely, the world would have learned about the Mari man much later, possibly even 100 or more years later. As you can see, our life is full of surprises, and sometimes they turn out to be quite pleasant. Sometimes it seems that on the most ordinary day, something happens that changes everything for the better forever. Surely you are familiar with the feeling when you suddenly got lucky? Tell us about it in the comments. Hit like if you enjoyed this video. See you in the next one.